Okay, I'll take it. Guys, if I have not had the chance to meet you yet, my name is Ashlyn, and I'm really excited to be with y'all this morning. If it's your first time with us here at Transit, welcome to Transit. I hope that you have had an incredible morning so far, that you're getting to meet some new friends, and that hopefully you want to come back after this week as well. And I also want to shout out, can we give it up for Kinsey one more time? It is so cool to me to get to see you guys have the courage to get up in front of everyone here in Transit and tell your story. So Kinsey's probably not even in the room yet, but congratulations to Kinsey. That was incredible. But guys, we are finishing out our series this week called Unexpected. We are in part 3 of this series. And so the last 2 weeks, you guys have gotten to hear stories about Jesus and how his interactions with people and his responses to situations were a little bit unexpected. Hence this very clever name, Unexpected. And so today we are going to be diving into a third story that has to do with that as well. But before we dive in, I just got to be honest with you guys. I need you to know about a very important fact in my life right now. And that is that currently my Tuesday evenings are booked and busy for the foreseeable future because of an incredible reality TV show that is on right now. Does anyone know what this is? Yeah. Yes, we do. We have someone's up. Dancing with the Stars. So I have this support, thank you, Kendall, of a few leaders in the room. Guys, if you haven't watched the show yet, you got to hop on board. It's amazing. But I'm hooked on it right now because of a contestant. His name is Joey Grazade. He may or may not have been on The Bachelor. But I'm hooked every week because he's incredible. Like this man, he did an interview on Good Morning America and could barely move. He was stiff as a board. But then he hops out here on this ballroom dance floor and the man can dance. So I am hooked every single Tuesday night watching this show and very impressed. But I am also hooked on this show because of the absurd comments that some of the judges make on this show. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching the contestants dance and perform. And then they, go up, they finish, they're standing in front of the judges. And these judges start giving them scores, start giving them comments. And there's one particular judge, I won't name any names. You can come find me after if you want to know. He gives the most dramatic advice and kind of makes it all about himself. And then sometimes scores the contestants way too low. And I'm like, no. Like, I could do a better job than this. Anyone ever been there? Maybe not Dancing with the Stars, but you're watching a football game or another game show. Yes. We think that we are the best judge of all time as we are sitting on our couch, maybe with like a Coke or a popcorn in hand, and we're like, I could do this better than them. So you call out that ref or you call out that player. You're like, no, I could judge this better. Or maybe it's not a TV show. Maybe you are sitting in your classroom at school. And you're sitting here looking at your teacher and you're like, I could do this better than you. You are not teaching the best. No, they went and got a degree in this subject, but no. You as the middle schooler, you could teach it better than them. You know what's best. Because you're sitting there judging them in that moment. Or maybe you're at home and your parents, they cook you a nice dinner. But you sit there, you take one bite of it, and then you are immediately critical of them and their cooking abilities, even though you've been sitting on the couch all afternoon playing whatever video game. Yes, I have some head nods in the crowd. You know what I'm talking about. It can be so easy to judge other people and circumstances when we have no skin in the game. When we are not the one actually having to perform that skill or interact in that situation, so we stand back. And we immediately cast judgment or criticism on the people and circumstances that we are in. Guys, we all judge people all the time. We all judge people all the time. It is unfortunately so common in society today. It almost has become second nature where we don't even realize we're doing it. And it's just this round and round effect in our mind of all these judgmental thoughts. And you're on the end where you come sometimes dish it to other people, but then you're also on the end where you sometimes receive it, and then it's not all fun and games anymore when you're on that end. No, the comments begin to hurt. You become sad or angry, insecure, anxious. And so fact of the matter is, whether you are judging someone or whether you are being judged by someone, none of us are ever our best selves when we're in that mindset. None of us are ever living our best lives when we are stuck in that cycle. And so it brings me to the question this morning of what do we do about that? Because yes, judgment may be common, but that does not mean it's normal. It does not mean that that is the best way to live your life. So what can we do in order to help break that cycle and get out of that trap? And so we said that we're in this series called Unexpected, where we are learning about the life of Jesus and some unexpected interactions he had. And that's what we're going to do this morning. We are going to go straight to looking at a response that Jesus had in hopes that we can answer this question. And so we're going to be looking in the book of John. If you have your phone or you have your Bible, you are more than welcome to take it out and follow along with me. I'll also have it up on the screen. But we're going to be looking in John chapter 8. And I want to set the scene a little bit for you guys here. John was a disciple of Jesus, a friend of Jesus who did everyday life with him while Jesus was here on earth. And he writes this book that records so many different stories of the life of Jesus. And in this particular chapter, chapter 8, Jesus is in the middle of his ministry here on earth. And so he had been performing so many miracles, and he had been teaching hundreds and thousands of people at the time. And so inevitably, he had gained quite a reputation for himself. I mean, it's not normal when a man takes 5 loaves and 2 fish and feeds a whole entire community with them. No, that raises just a question in people's minds of like, who is this man? And so people would come to see him teach because they were fascinated by him. They admired him. They wanted to learn more from him. But then there's also a group of people that were extremely skeptical of him. And they weren't so sure that they wanted to believe what he was saying. No, he was kind of flipping things upside down, and they wanted him to stop. They wanted him to stop teaching. They wanted him to stop performing miracles. And so they were going to do everything in their power to trap him, to get him in trouble, so that he would lose that platform and lose the reputation that he had earned. And so one day he is teaching a crowd of people and going about his normal business, and all of a sudden there's a group of people from the back that make their way all the way up to the front, which obviously would cause a scene. Imagine someone just waltzing right through here. No, you're gonna look towards the people that are interrupting. And as they're walking up to the front, they bring with them this woman who they can tell doesn't want to be there, but they're kind of dragging her along all the way up to meet Jesus. And then they just start shouting out loud this woman's worst fear, worst sin that she had done, and that was being unfaithful to her husband. Can you imagine? I mean, imagine right here in transit. Someone brings you up to the front of the stage right now and starts shouting out every bad thing that you've ever done. No, you would be humiliated and you would be embarrassed. And so as Jesus is standing before them, he recognizes this and he's having compassion on the woman. So these men, as they're shouting it out, they're asking Jesus, what do you think about her? And Jesus, in this moment, he stoops to the ground and he begins to write something in the dirt, which is definitely an odd response, would not be my first choice. But even though we don't know what he said, he was diverting the attention from the woman to him. But these men weren't satisfied with that. They wanted to know what he thought in order to trap him, but Jesus saw right through their motives. So they keep asking, and I want you to see what Jesus does. In John 8, verses 7 through 8, it says, when they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. And then again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Guys, these men were bringing this woman up to the front of the crowd, up to where Jesus was, because they were calling out something she had done wrong, and they wanted her punished for it and ultimately killed for it. But in this moment, Jesus then responds and he says, hey, let any one of you who is without sin be the first one to judge her and to punish her. And what Jesus knew in that moment is that there was not a single person in that crowd that could say they were without sin, that could say they had never made a mistake, that could say that they were perfect. And he was challenging them to look inwardly because he was exposing in this moment what we so often do. It can be so easy to want to hide our own mistakes and to ignore our own mistakes, so we willingly choose to go point out something in another person to bring the attention there as opposed to ourselves. And Jesus is saying, hey, no, that's not how it works. I want you to look inwardly and reflect inwardly. And only if you can say that you are flawless are you allowed to punish her. And he goes back to writing in the ground. And then look at their response. In verses 9 through 10, it says, at this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman standing there. And Jesus straightened up and asked her, woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? So as he's giving them this moment to reflect, they analyze their own lives and they're like, well, I can't do this now. So they start walking away one at a time. And it's just Jesus and the woman left. And he asked this question, even though he knows the answer, asked her if they've condemned her, which really just means to judge her and find her guilty. And then she responds in verse 11, and she says, no one, sir. Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared. Go now and leave your life of sin. Guys, the crazy thing is that of all of those people in the crowd, Jesus would have been the only one that could have punished her, condemned her, judged her, because he was the only one that was perfect. But he says, I'm not going to condemn you. And he follows it and says, go now and leave your life of sin. And I love this response because he is still recognizing that what she has done is wrong. He is still recognizing that she is messed up. But yet he is choosing even in that to show her grace and set her free to live a better life. And this is the case because Jesus doesn't judge us by our mistakes, but he judges us by his grace. He did this for the woman. He will do this for you. He knows that we mess up all the time, but he chooses to show us grace. He chooses to show us love. He chooses to show us forgiveness because, guys, Jesus extends unexpected grace all the time. Jesus extends unexpected grace all the time. And man, am I so thankful for this because there are so many times that I'm like the woman. I've messed up and I need someone to show up for me. I need someone to show me grace and forgiveness. And then there are other times that I'm like the crowd. I'm pointing the blame on someone else. I'm calling someone else out, and neither of those are good places to be in. Neither of those are the life that God has intended us to live. And so I'm so grateful that Jesus extends grace in all of those moments. And so it brings us back to our initial question of, so how do we break this cycle of judgment? And simply, I want to say, you just remember Jesus. You remember how he treated the woman in this moment and how much grace he extends to each and every one of us. And so the next time you get home from school, you get in the kitchen and your mom's pulling out whatever casserole it is that she wanted to make and you're like, I'm going to throw up. Extend grace to her. She worked hard to make that casserole for you. You may not realize that, but she meant well. And the next time you're at school and you're walking past that person in the hallway, say hi to him. Let him know that you value them as a human being that's passing them at school. They're going through hard classes just like you, so might as well be friendly. Or maybe even the next time that you're tempted to judge yourself, because we all have this inner critic that rings in our mind. Show grace to yourself too. Or the next time that you feel like you are being judged by those around you, I want you to remember the grace that Jesus has shown you, because if he's willing to show you grace, then he's saying that you're valued and he's saying that you're loved, and you can live from that identity as opposed to the comments that are being made about you. Guys, I truly believe that this truth could change our lives. I think it could change transit. I think it could change your schools. I think it could change your homes. If we're all willing to pause and show grace instead of our initial reaction be to show judgment. And so you're going to get to go to small group and you're going to get to talk about this. You can be real what's going on at home. You can be real with what's going on at school. And I want you guys to let this sink in, and I want you to live your lives differently because this is the hope that Jesus has for you. And so as you go to small group today, I answered this question at the top, but I want you to answer it now on the way to group, and that is, if you could be a judge on any TV show, what would it be? Y'all are dismissed.